Good afternoon and thanks for joining us in this edition of the program 360 Degrees. More than 4,000 people are currently homeless in Yagwa, far north region of Cameroon as a result of floods that hit the locality a week ago, destroying over 132 schools, killing cattle, sheep, and equally some people losing their lives in the course of the sad incident. And the Minister of Territorial Administration is currently on the ground with the presidential aid to the flood victims. In today's edition of the program, we shall be looking at the response plan to disasters in Cameroon. We are talking about flood, landslide, and the others. We are trying to look at, can we as Cameroon do better when it comes to the response strategy to flood or disaster victims. If you are just joining us, this is 360 Degrees, and stay with us for the next 1 hour as we come back to get into our discussions. Thanks once again for joining us. We are beaming live from Upwe in Douala, the economic capital of Cameroon. And with me in the studio, I have 3 gentlemen and a lady that we shall be discussing for the next 1 hour on our theme of today. I will go straight to welcome them. By my left, it's not a new person here. I have our MICAH. He's a journalist here working with Radio Bonabéri. Mr. Awa, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Hyncenth. I would have loved to have the beautiful lady by my left to have the introduction first, but since you choose to alter the order, who am I then? It's a pleasure to be here, and of course, looking at the natural disasters which we are currently facing as a country. It's a global crisis, it's a natural phenomenon. And of course, it is also a testament to the fact that climate change is real. And of course, it's going to take collective and individual responsibilities when it comes to managing the response, of course, natural disasters.
Thank you so much. I'll go to my far right, where we have Dr. IGNATIUS. He's a climatologist. A climatologist, yeah, and then he works with the National Observatory Climate Change. Doc, this is your very first time on this set. It's a pleasure.
It's really a pleasure, Mr. Chia, given the circumstances that surround us in terms of disaster in our country, and given that no part of the world is exempted from these unpleasant scenarios that are recorded day in, day out. Having informed the National Observatory a little bit late and seeing the situation at hand, we couldn't do anything more or different from making our efforts to be here today.
And I want to thank you particularly because despite the short notice, you had to come all the way from Yaoundé to be here today for the program. Thank you so much. By him is Dr. TEKUH ACHU KINGSLEY. He is a toxicologist and a public health expert. You're welcome, Doc.
Thank you, Mr. Hyncenth. It's a pleasure to come around Canal 2. And it's an honor, as you rightly say, to talk about 40,000 people that are actually victims of disaster in Yagwa. It's a call for concern, and not just a call for concern about those maybe that actually create strategy on how to prevent disaster, but actually a public health problem that arises. Talk about 40,000 people. It's not just a handful of persons, it's a whole community that's at stake here.
Thank you so much. And to the lone lady of the day, she is Madam Ester OMAM. You know, she wears many caps. She is the Executive Director of Reach Out Cameroon. She is a humanitarian and equally a peace mediator. Madam, you are welcome again. You've been here before, and we are very happy to share, for you to come in here today to share your input again, once again with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me in this platform, which aims to discuss current issues such as what we are living now. Our hearts are grieving because of the situation which we had which has befallen 40,000 persons in the northern part of Cameroon. It's a situation we should not live to see. You know, if everything was okay, if we were prepared in advance to preempt such occurrences. Thank you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady. You permit us take some few news reports before we come back to dive into our discussions proper.
La déflagration a retenti ici, lieu dit Toxicologist dans le 3e arrondissement de la ville de Bamenda.
Loaded trucks on queue, 22 in number, leaving the Yaoundé 20th May Avenue for the far north region, precisely at Yagua, where floods have once more left its victims. 11 deaths, 950 families displaced, and 4,300 settled per site.
We have 22 loaded trucks here. We have food items, non-food items, and other provisions and relief material for the population which are suffering from the floods. So we have now 22 trucks from here. We have about 10 trucks which will leave Garoua going to Yagua, and we have about 12 other trucks which are already stationed in Marwa.
In 3 days, these trucks are expected to have reached their destination, where the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, is expected to hand the material to the victims. Relief support from the presidential couple.
We initially announced 350 million francs. The head of state added 500 million francs, and later on close to 800 million francs. So we are talking about something close to 1,900 million francs, which the head of state has disbursed in less than 3 days, so that we can effectively carry assistance to this population. We have been having messages coming from the local population from Yagua, telling us to send their message of gratitude and unflinching support to President Paul Biya.
This year's flood is coming after that of September last year. The victims are looking forward to other appropriate measures to replace the relief humanitarian aid.
Following the restructuring of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest region and the Southwest region, the structure is now open to other development organizations and non-governmental organizations to speed up the process as per the July 30 Prime Ministerial Decree. The details have been elaborately presented to stakeholders in the Northwest region by the Minister Delegate at the Ministry of Economy Planning and Regional Development, who doubles as committee chair and guest to the conclave. This was during the second regional steering committee meeting held in Bamenda on Tuesday, September 17.
Now the PPRD can and should be able to incorporate in its results the work that is being done in the construction of the Pumbo to Kambe section of the ring road. PPRD has the possibility to incorporate within its results the work that is being done on the construction of the Bamenda-Babadi road. At the same time, the urban bypass road of the city of Bamenda.
Chaired by the regional coordinator, who is the governor, a balance sheet of the projects carried out so far was presented. It was made abundantly clear that though all the 35 mayors are statutory members, the PPRD can even bypass them and carry out projects in their municipalities without their consent. Owing to the new configuration, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, ceases to be the sole implementing partner of PPRD projects, and the barely 50 out of the needed 150 billion francs is available for the first phase.
The bomb explosion Thursday morning, September 19, 2024, at the popular Toxicologist in Bamenda 3 subdivision has left some people injured and others feared dead. It is suspected that separatist fighters planted the improvised device to scare people from the functional makeshift market that has been growing up along the road opposite the Nkwen market, contrary to the lockdown calls that has been in the second and last week. Some of the injured persons were rushed to hospital in ambulances, like this lady with injuries on the face. The explosion was followed by thunderous gunshots said to be from defense and security forces posted around some major road junctions in the town. Yeah. With people running out of food supplies, medical attention and other emergency needs is said to be the reason for the progressive growth of some makeshift markets and movements on motorbikes during periods of uncertainty like the 2 weeks of near business and academic inactivity.
Welcome back. It is rather unfortunate that we still see bullets flying in the air in the northwest and southwest region. At the moment when we are clamoring for back to school, we do hope something will be done. And first, gentlemen, I see you itching to react to that terrible video there, but I would like us to go straight to our talking point since we don't have much time. Let me begin with you, Awa. When you look at what is happening in the far north right now in Yagwa, what is your global view of it?
Well, my honest take on this is that it's a natural occurrence, which is part of a global phenomenon. Natural disasters here and there, not only in Cameroon. Next door, Nigeria, it's happening there. India suffered weeks ago, and other parts of the world continue to go through that. It is a trend that is attributed to climate change, and it's also a call for consciousness for us to understand what is going on with the ozone layer and other aspects that have to do with climate change or global warming. With regards to what is happening to North, in particular, in the case of Cameroon, and we're talking about 40,000 people displaced as a result of the flood. It should not be the case.
Okay.
I'm not saying natural disasters, human beings have control over that. No, we cannot. This is nature at work, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But there is something more we can do about the repercussions, the aftermath of these things. I just think that we seem to be living in a state of unconsciousness so far as these things are concerned, that we wait for disaster to strike before we start mobilizing to respond. To respond to what? To lives lost, to properties lost? We can be more proactive than this. But when we're talking at a time when what we have as leadership is kind of docile, it becomes a little bit more difficult to actually want to say what the way forward is. The response and disaster management strategy put in place, it could be there, but we never knew it is there until disaster strikes. But when you look at how the situation has been managed, sending relief material is a wonderful thing. People need the foodstuff, the water, and all of that, and shelter. But which one is more preferable? Which one is more effective? Putting in place an effective mechanism, prevention mechanism, that would actually kind of like curb the kind of consequences that we have right now into have, or waiting for the disaster to strike so that we can mobilize. Money is brought in there. People who don't even have shelter now are given money for shelter, and we never know if they will ever have the shelter at all after this. So I think that we should be more serious. We should be more pragmatic in the way we manage these things that have to do with people's lives. We are talking about families that have been displaced, and it is unheard of. It is unheard of.
Okay.
Let's be more realistic here. We want to see a more effective disaster management mechanism, or we call it a commission or committee put in place that is working, that can actually get into these communities. How did it even happen without these people getting to know that in the days ahead we're going to have more rent?
Okay.
And we're going to have, we should, Doctor is here, he's going to tell us more about that. He's going to tell us more about that. But I think that we can be more pragmatic. Let's try to prevent things. Let's be more proactive. Let's put in place working systems that can actually safeguard life and properties.
Yeah, Doc, he gives the impression that we are behaving as if it took us by storm at the level of ONACC. Were the signals clear enough, and how effective maybe were they communicated before the incident occurred?
I will agree with you that the signals were clear and sent out at the right time. I might differ a little bit. Let me first of all agree with Mega Power at the level of we need to do better.
Sure.
But I disagree at the point of let's like sitting waiting for it to happen before they react. At that point, I say no. Maybe the information wasn't well disseminated, and at that level, the responsibility is shared.
Yeah.
When you look at the seasonal bulletin, because the National Observatory on Climate Change, which was created in 2009, it went into action 2015, reorganized 2019. And when you look at the short duration and what they are doing, one of the principal tools, decision-making tools, or the information, the climate saving information center, is the seasonal bulletin. They do it every 3 months. If you go into the bulletin that cover the months of October, September, and November, you will see it was well indicated. Even when you go back to June, the agricultural calendar for the Southern Sahelian zone covering the north and the extreme north region, it was made it there very clear that rains will be more intense in this region. We will have days that will accumulate relatively higher amount, succeeded by dry spells. For instance, you will notice that between the last week of the month of August and the first week of the month of September, the extreme north in particular registered about 30 to 35% of its annual rainfall. Annual rainfall is generally around 1,200 millimeters to 1,300 on average, but you notice that a very short period registered 30% of what used to be received in the entire year. Apart from this seasonal bulletin, we bring it to a smaller scale. You know, with climate prediction, the shorter the duration, the more precise and the more reliable the information is. There is another document we produce every 10 days. If you go to the 199th edition, you will see it was well indicated there and the localities cited. Maybe I think it should about the third column on page 11, you will see the localities of Yagua, you see Gere, you see Gilvidik, you see Kaikai, and Blangwa, Makari, a series of zones in the Logon and Shari and the Mayo Danai division.
What you are saying is very correct. But then, is there a problem maybe of the information leaving your very honored office to get down to the local man down there? Because you and I could read and understand, but those who are maybe where they do not even have internet, where they do not even have access to media, is there a problem at that level?
Absolutely. There is a need to boost things at the level of dissemination, because information is only useful when it reaches the end users at the right time. First of all, once at the 10th day this information is produced, we send to the various administrative structures. The first is the Ministry of Territorial Administration. There's the Department of Civil Protection.
Civil Protection, yes.
Which then, you can bear with me that we have seen situations where the SDO for Wuri has sent out communiques cautioning the population to take this or that measure. The same with the governor of the West Region, early July, Maybe this time around, at the level of the Mayo-Danai division, the information was not well disseminated, but not leaving out the fact that the population need to also be conscious. We were in the extreme north in the month of July with the NGO Action contre la faim to elaborate and establish their calendar for anticipatory action within the year. And if you check on the document, the final document we came out with, we specify these localities, the peak periods, possible days of flood events, and the gap. There are also, most of these localities that witness flooding in the extreme north. We are working with partners like the FAO, which every 10 days we give them a calendar. They are partners. We produce a calendar indicating the various climate-related events that will occur in this area. But I bet there are guys in this area that you will be in a workshop. Somebody tells you, are you sure what they are saying like that is true? You see that doubt. Then we are working with community radios, over 50 of them already, which we are trying to see how most of them will disseminate some of this information in the local languages, giving, in fact, the scholarization rate level in this particular region.
Thank you. Madam Esther, before we get to the humanitarian angle of it, you wanted to react to what he was saying there?
Yes, really, I would say that if care is not taken, next year, the same period, we'll be singing the same song. It's good to produce, even more. It's good to produce bulletins, but bulletins for who are the final consumers of the information of these bulletins. Let me tell you, our country is not yet prepared or ready to carry out what you call anticipatory action risk analysis. We do not do that. Why must we always wait for calamities to befall us for us to wake up and discover that, hey, there is something happening, we need to do that? There is a very big gap in all what you just said and what we are doing. You can be talking about publishing bulletins, information bulletins. You can be talking about talking with Action contre la faim or FAO. That's not enough. Managing or the management of disaster in a country such as ours requires a multifaceted approach, given the complexity of this country's socio-political landscape. When you look at conflict zones, when you look at the natural disasters, when you look at the economic challenges which we are facing, you must put all of this in one basket in order to do a sound or a thorough analysis and come up with what we call a readiness plan, a preparedness plan. Come up with what we call early warning systems. Early warning system is good. Bulletin is one, but it is not enough. There is a huge gap between what you say and what is happening at community level. It bleeds our hearts to know that 40,000 persons become victims and or survivors of what is happening. And among them, women and children. Children were supposed to go to school, are not going to school. Some are dead. Some cannot go to school. We saw people using a pirogue, using a canoes.
A lot of primary and secondary schools
to transport a very few children to school. Let me tell you, other countries are doing better. I've been seeing it trending these days on social media that Cameroon is going to release water from the Lagdo Dam, and it will flood Nigeria, and it's going to affect 11 communities. Do you know what? The community-driven initiative systems put in place in those areas pick the alert, and they are already telling their people, asking them to evacuate the areas. This is what we want. It is not only for the North. Please, I'm coming.
Yes.
It is not only for the North. We are here to talk about preemptive actions.
Sure.
It is not only for the North. What about Yaoundé itself? Look at how it is flooding.
Douala.
I saw Mimin Mefo reporting today about the floods. Look at Douala.
After every heavy rainfall, there is.
Then let us think about the floods of the Northwest.
At the Post Central.
Exactly. So it shows that there is something bigger than what all of us are talking here, which is lacking. And that thing is a policy gap. I will put it that way.
Yeah.
It is a policy gap. Let us face the fact, say it in order to help ourselves. I'm saying that because when I talk about multifaceted approach, it is not only the government which is responsible.
Yeah.
You have yourself, myself. You have the private sector. Everybody.
Yes, everybody.
But how do we give responsibility? How do we transfer responsibility to these people? Is a problem. I'm asking because now we've just seen a humanitarian convoy going to give relief, relief aid to the victims or survivors of this disaster, right?
Yeah.
But how has it been organized to make sure that the person right to down the community appropriates this approach, appropriates this action which is coming towards them to help their people? This is where we have to look at, and this is what we have to discuss in order to bring solutions, to propose solutions that will help the government to put in place, because the government is leading when it comes to policy, to put in place some policies which will help us address these issues in a timely manner.
Thank you so much. She just made mention of communication as well. I can bet you have equally visited a few localities up there. The people, they don't speak neither English nor French. So that is to tell you that in terms of communication, for a message to be assimilated, you need to multiply when you come, local languages.
Yes, I think I want to come in with something. We should actually be aware where we find ourselves. We're actually in a country where bureaucracy is a style of life. So, doctor is actually talking about, or now you're talking about bringing strategy, reporting statistics. That's very good. But when the communication is not being disseminated, actually the population is lacking, and subsequently will have things that actually happen as such. Now, coming back to what we are actually discussing today, we should remember that 2 years ago, August 2024 actually make 2 years when Yagua had flood.
Yeah.
Because in 2022, I know maybe Doc had the statistic they have actually disseminated, but we know the procedures, administrative, maybe they are studying. You know, when you in Cameroon, it seems as if it's a style. When you transmit some information that is on a paper, they have to study it. The person is taking the information to share, but he has to study. He has to understand what he's not supposed to understand there. Maybe take the distance and send maybe to a mobile telecommunication network to actually disseminate it by through SMS. He's not doing it, he's studying it. And then when he's studying, he has to give an approval for the hierarchy. The chief has not validated. The chief validates. He doesn't even read what is validated. He just signed there with the red pen. And then maybe another color is if it's a green pen, it means that it doesn't go out. If it's a blue pen, it means it stays within. So those are administrative procedures that comes in and then just create some headache which are not actually helping us in any taking us anywhere.
Okay.
So I have to understand, Ms. Hyncenth, that when we talk about disaster preparedness, it's a major way to actually be on alert. So so long as we are not on that alert, I remember our brother, the Minister of Minad, he once in his speech when he was defending his budget, I think it was the budget for 2023, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He's saying that they are actually they are defending that budget. That was an increment of 4%. That they're increasing the budget because when disaster comes, they should help the disaster victim. So you see, the person that's in charge of the structure that involves disaster, he has in plan to help the disaster victim. He doesn't have in plan to prevent the disaster from happening. Why doctors are crying statistics, creating bulletin every week to submit to them? They're actually having their own plan to help the victim. As we actually see today, that's a convoy. And then the president has actually come out with his own assistant, doubling that of Minad, which is 3.250 million. He has added 500 million. So I don't know now it's going to a political...
Okay.
It is because we have so much money that we sit and wait for disasters to strike so that the government can dish out money and we face the cameras and announce what government is doing. I think we can do better than that by actually... We are playing with people's lives. These are lives that are lost, like Madam Ester said. These are women and children suffering. I think we can do better than this. Let's look at how preventive measures we take can be. We need visionary leadership that is able to be proactive, see into these things, anticipate and take action. And not wait when it strikes and then we defend budgets and then call out for money call for donations, and these donations are given to people who are dead. And
thank you. Let's go over to Yagua. Our colleague Delphine Fonko is standing by. in a ceremony where the relief materials worth over 1.5 billion is being distributed to the victims. Hello, Delphine.
Bonjour, nous sommes à Bonabéri, c'est l'un des sites de reclassement le plus important de Yagua, ici même dans l'extrême nord du Cameroun. Alors vous voyez derrière moi des populations, 3700 populations totales au sein de 450 familles qui sont en train de recevoir chacune des populations, chacune des familles sont donc du couple présidentiel Paul et Chantal Biya, un don constitué de matériel de couchage, des denrées, des alimentaires, notamment du riz, du poisson et bien d'autres. Les populations sont en train de recevoir donc ces dons sous l'œil vigilant des autorités. Toutes les autorités sont mobilisées sur ce site pour donc observer, veiller à ce que chacune des familles entre pleinement en possession de son don. Aucun matelas ni sac ni son ne doit se perdre. C'est ce que vérifie donc d'un côté là-bas, monsieur le ministre de l'administration territoriale sur le site, avec à ses côtés le directeur politico-administratif de l'extrême nord du Cameroun. La distribution est en cours et au cours de celle-ci, on a écouté le maire de Yagua qui fait part de l'alliance des populations ici, justement, que les infrastructures qui ont cédé après les autres soient rétablies. Et c'est ce que le ministre émissaire a alors dit que cela est pris en compte. Il veille donc à ce que désormais, justement, les infrastructures soient entretenues. Et le ministre de la KINGSLEY a d'ailleurs fait ça.
Thank you, Delphine Fonko and Michelle Foko. Doc, let me maybe begin with you now. What are some of the toxicological risks that arise from such disasters?
Yes, and before talking about toxicological risk, I would like to read some greetings to the Bishop of Yagua, Bartholomew Yaouda, as the Bishop of Yagua, for the efforts that they are actually putting in place to assist the states in actually helping those that are being involved in this type of disaster.
Yeah.
So, you know, the minister of the MINAD has come on air talking about aid, but behind the scene, the church, the bishop has been doing some great work, which I actually salute, as the Bishop of Yagua. So, coming back to disaster, you have to understand that from a toxicological point of view, toxicology goes analyze things by preventing them.
Yeah.
So, in every preparedness report about disaster, whatsoever it may be land, it may be flood, we have to what they call risk assessment. That's you assess the area. When you assess the area, what do you assess? You assess the soil texture, the water quality, how dehydrated the soil is. You go now, maybe you check on issues like the topography, the topography of the area. You check about the habitat, things that the people are actually fond of doing. We see in Yagua, the people actually invest in farming and cultivation. When they manipulate, they turn the soil like that, they actually render the soil maybe somehow fragile. And then in doing that, when you have actually a good risk assessment of your community and the area, you can actually design a well-prepared preparedness plan. That's you tell the community that, okay, if we are coming here to farm rice, for example, we should farm rice in this area, in this community for 2 years. And after the third year, nobody should farm around this area. Because maybe the dig or the bands of the lagoon that's actually maybe can be overfloated will not be tampered with. Because as long as you're manipulating the soil, you expose the community to another risk. So if that's a preventive strategy. So if the population is aware and is educated, is communicated, communication is being done to them in that way, they'll actually be on alert in such a way that even the chiefs at the level of the village, no matter if you see somebody farming maybe around such areas which are actually identified, after a thorough risk assessment in designing a preparedness report, will actually be on alert, observing the community not to be engaged in certain activities, thereby protecting that area. That's a community level. So we also have to understand that disasters do not also happen just because of nature.
Yeah.
We have human factors.
Yeah.
So the human factors too is our own way of our own styles. You see somebody like, we have a bottle of water on the table, somebody will drink this, he doesn't have that consciousness that this thing is a hazard. Means a danger.
Yeah.
There has to be a mechanism to actually discard this thing. So if the community, the people that are actually fabricating, do not disseminate information properly, you will see somebody at the end of it, he bought his water for 400, he has drunk the water, okay. That my money was spent, I have consumed it, I dump it to the next person. And then the man that is coming from his account actually comes and pick it, or maybe he's just there, he's abandoned to himself. But understand that when these bottles, when it's one, it's more of a lesser problem.
Yeah.
But when it comes 100 of them, then you know that you have built a dam without knowing.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kiming, at the level of ONACC, how accurate are climate models predictions when it comes to Cameroon? Because you made mention of the fact that some people, even when you say, they tell you that that is their own they are saying. So, but how accurate from your observation? Are we just like neglecting? And then, whereas at the level of ONACC, what you predict is always what happens at the end.
Okay, thank you for that question. Everywhere in the world, climate modeling and climate prediction is an aspect of probability.
Yeah.
And when we dish out information, we always indicate that this is the area, this is the period, and this is the probable, there's a column there indicated probable period, emphasizing on that element of probability. And when they tell you this can likely happen, it costs you nothing to be conscious in case it doesn't happen, you lose nothing. And coming back to the ideas, the contribution other panelists gave, it is important. We need to improve. The policies need to be adjusted.
Yeah.
But I would like to emphasize on this point, self-consciousness. Don't stay somewhere and die because the state has not done this or that. There is no photocopy of any life.
Yeah.
First, there are areas here in the littoral that people want to remain in Douala at all costs.
Yeah.
You see when there are demolition actions, there is a lot of resistance. At that point, ask yourself, what am I doing here? Before the state comes, it's the rule of the state to reinforce the law. But the first thing that we should be conscious. Yeah, we should be conscious. Going back to the modeling, even if you develop strategies, mitigation, adaptation strategies in the extreme north as well as any other part of Cameroon, you won't succeed very well. You might be surprised in the future if climate modeling is not integrated in any element of the development. For example, you can go and construct a dike there or deviate river, and you notice that in the next 2-3 years, the amount of rain that will come will surpass what you were estimating. But if there are, because the first thing is for vulnerability studies, you know the sensitivity of that area, the exposure, the adaptive capacity of the local population, and then predict climate in the next future. And that one, it needs material, it needs tools, it needs up-to-date equipment. For instance, just there in Yagua, the population had this tradition of being attached to floodplains, because when they bring this alluvial soil, they are very fertile area, and they go. It's not easy to dislodge these people from this area. We should try to let these people themselves know we are in danger. Then the state comes in now to reinforce. If you are not leaving this, you must leave this area.
The problem at times is many are ready to leave, but there's nowhere they have to go to. So that is the problem.
That is, it goes to where we are talking about policy. Policy. We need to readjust the policy, try to integrate those elements. I would like to come back to what awaits Cameroonians in the days ahead across the country, such that tomorrow it will not happen and they will say we were surprised, we were not informed. So that even just through the media, through Canal, through all the different channels, at least a good number of people will have the information.
Thank you.
So
Very,
that tomorrow, if
very
you are
important.
dying in your room because of negligence, you will not 100% to the state.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. At the level of the humanitarian angle now, so what should be the priority of humanitarian concerns when such things happen?
The very first thing I would say is to strengthen the preparedness plan. strengthen early warning signs and mechanisms so that local actors are included in the readiness or preparedness plans which are being put in place. Here we are talking about inclusive governance. It will not work, it will never work when we do things in isolation. I keep talking about a multifaceted approach. We must make sure that all actors are brought on board. They all are drilled, coached, or mentored, or trained on security disaster management and even infrastructure development. How? Through policy, the government leading policy, the other actors picking from it, and then making sure that there is efficient allocation of resources. We talk about humanitarian aid all the time. Yes, it's true. But when the funds are allocated, how are they put in use? Who are the actors who come to play? You will see most of the time, look at the frontline actors when there are issues of humanitarian support or whatever. And ask also yourself the question that when we go to give humanitarian aid, who are the real beneficiaries of this aid? Are they the real survivors of victims, or are they people impersonating victims or survivors? We've seen cases.
Are you insinuating that?
We've seen cases where the goodwill of the government through the offices of those who represent the government is being misused. I am saying this from realities, where the minister will come and give aid, but the people bringing, identifying those to benefit from those aids. Let's take the example of internally displaced persons. Are not internally displaced persons. Internally displaced persons who leave their homes at 5 a.m. to come and sit somewhere waiting because they heard that the government is bringing relief aid to them will not get anything by the end of the day. And it turns out that they have to buy back from those who receive that aid. What irony. So we are saying here that the time has come. It is for us to advise ourselves and advise the government that, hey, when you're doing these things, it's good. But please, let us use an inclusive governance approach where all the actors across the line come together to look at how they're going to do it properly with you. Maybe so that we get the results, so that we reduce the impact of these disasters in our country, in our communities. Maybe that will also solve the problem of we see non-governmental organizations and the government doing the same thing, whereas maybe other elements, other aspects of the disaster is being neglected. It will avoid the aspect of duplication. I put it straight. It will avoid the aspect of duplication. That's why here we are talking about true collaboration. Here we are talking about honest or true collaboration, where you have all the actors coming together, because nobody will rejoice over a calamity. Nobody will feel happy. Nobody will be happy or dance because people are dying. You understand? It is our responsibility. It is not the responsibility of the state alone. I do not want some people, some individuals, to think that because they belong in the system, it is only given to them. It is not the responsibility of the state alone. It is the responsibility of all of us. I seated here, that woman in that community inclusive. I'm glad I heard Dr. talk here about, you talk about Monseigneur or what? Monseigneur Bartholomew, who has been at the forefront ever since this thing happened. Civil society are there, but people are doing it in an uncoordinated way. The government should lead policy. The government should lead such engagements and make sure that things are well coordinated in instances such as these. Thank you.
Mr. Awa, in a moment like this, what role should the media play? Because we've agreed that it's a collective responsibility.
Right.
Very big role.
We believe that government-led action is imperative. Covering the media and other response strategies, government-led action is needed. What role should the media play? Well, let me go back to what Dr. Kimin said. Information was disseminated, but the impact of it wasn't felt. If we had the impact of it felt, we would not be talking about up to 40,000 persons displaced in the far north. Some people, not everybody wants to die. Some people will hear.
Nobody wants to die. Not everybody wants to die.
Well, people commit suicide anyways. People commit suicide.
Okay.
So those are people who want to die. But again, we have people who want to live. And when they hear that danger is coming, they run away. But again, when information doesn't reach them on time, they are trapped in that predicament, and there is absolutely nothing they can do about it. Media should be given a role in all of this. I said government-led action. You wouldn't want to jump out to the front and start doing media activism or campaign when you have not also been empowered to do so. Even as Canal do, you wouldn't be able to.
There are a lot of challenges when it comes to covering disasters.
You have bureaucracy. You still have to take accreditation from somewhere to be able to do what you have to do. And sometimes it may take you 1 year to report on an issue that is happening in 3 months. And how do you do that? It takes 1 year to get accreditation for something that is coming up in 3 months because somebody has to sign a paper and it's going to take 1 year for that person to do that. So I think that the media really wants to come in and do a whole lot. It's true we've had now citizen journalists all over the place, like social media doing all of that. They're trying to do that. But again, we're talking about the professional media landscape needs to be empowered, needs to be given the go-ahead. And why not? Even on the state broadcaster, we are expecting to see daily updates on weather, and of course, let's have this information. After the news, let's see some warnings, some signals come up about weather, about some risk-prone areas, what will be happening in the few hours to come, in the few days to come, what will be happening. We want to see these things actually happen on a daily basis. Media is ready, but again, we have a problem of leadership. Those who perhaps have to take these decisions and get some of us run may not be ready to do so, even when the suggestions are brought in. The media can do a whole lot when empowered. The media can do a whole lot when it is inspired. Because if you're not also inspired, you can't do this. The media individually, at Radio Bonabéri, I think we have a slot on traffic and weather, where we give information on traffic and weather. We monitor.
How many languages do you use?
Well, we use Pidgin and English language, but I think that is an effort of a media outlet. If others can replicate this, I think that we can cover some gap. We might not be able to cover completely to a reasonable extent, but we can reduce the impact.
Okay, Doc, in such moments, how can public health be protected concretely?
Yes.
Like the situation we are facing now.
The situation we are actually facing, and there's a public health problem. For me to come to that, I want to understand one thing, that if we look at when the disaster happened, we are talking about August. When is the aid coming in? We are talking about September. That's a problem. There is a delay. Why is it that the disaster has taken place and there was a delay? And now when you go into the scenario, you go like somewhere like Yagua. I've seen pictures from Yagua where schools, government schools, children from government schools have been taken within the church premises. That's the Archbishop of Yagua, Monsignor Yahuda, has provided this place for government school children to actually learn. And the schools they're actually on the ground with palm fronds over their head. Now, that's a situation that it happened in August. Somebody has taken an initiative and it's not on air. Nobody's talking about it. But now we are coming now with mattresses. We are coming with a bag of rice to go to the north. That's good. But are you sure that from August to this period, those people were not sleeping somewhere? They had somewhere to sleep. So the mattress is actually coming in. It's good, but it's actually coming in at a very wrong time. That's one more time. So talking about the public health challenge. When we talk about disaster, they have 5 pillars of concerns that comes up. We have what they call the water and the sanitary and the hygiene approach. Good water for the community to drink, the sanitary condition when they have to defecate. For the 1 month that the disaster has been there, the people have been passing waste. How has it been managed? The hygiene condition. There are children there, there are newborn babies there. They had to survive. How are they surviving? Now talk about food crisis that might come into. Maybe the farms where they had to rely on to get food is destroyed. How do they feed? You have the issue of malnutrition that sets in. Now we talk about the issue of, there's even the issue of protection. That's why you see when disaster comes in, it's an integrated activity that everybody have to come in. You see, like the girl child or the woman, the ladies, they become vulnerable. Remember, understand one thing: a lady that was maybe being eyed by the neighbor, it's an opportunity now for that neighbor to be close to her And there might be a source maybe for unwanted pregnancy, HIV, and maybe so. And there was a gender violence setting. A girl that was actually going to school because of a disaster find herself in a marriage home because of this disaster. Those are things that we don't see.
So how do we prevent that?
So the best way to prevent disaster, as I earlier said, is to actually have a preparedness plan. And the preparedness plan actually incorporates so many things. Now, like now, we are talking about aid to Yagua. We see that aid in Cameroon when disaster comes up. If you follow the chains of events, I saw that we are actually 2 years into the same scenario in 2012 of Yagua. In 2022, Yagua in August was flooded. In the same 2024 August, Yagua is still flooded. Now, there was no preparedness. That's what it actually entails. Now, for us to actually prepare, now the Ministry of MINAD is taking its own action. They call it fragmented assistance. The MINAD is going ahead. The minister, MINAD proposed 350. The presidency is coming behind. Ministry of Public Health is not saying anything yet.
No, the presidency, however, disbursed 350 million.
No, it was a MINAD budget.
No, during the press briefing, MINAD made mention of the fact that it was disbursed by the head of state. So maybe somewhere along the line, the envelope had to increase.
So it has been increased. Now that's MINAD going ahead. The Ministry of Environment, we are not seeing them anywhere. The Ministry of Defense, we have the fire brigade, we are not seeing them anywhere. The Ministry of Public Health, he's still thinking. MINAD has taken one. No. When I say thinking, when I'm saying thinking, I mean you are not seeing them on the forefront because they have to come on air. Soon they'll come on air with maybe assistant kits, maybe for hygienic conditions to provide them health. Yes. So you will see them come on soon. The MINAD are taking 1 month to come on air. So Ministry of Public Health is still taking his own time. They're studying the disaster and then
okay, thank you.
So preparedness is actually a strategy.
We are still in the rainy season. Are there signals that maybe in other areas this time around, if we are not careful, we can still live the same scenario like what we are seeing in Yagua?
Yes, exactly. Before coming to that point, just some little rectification.
Sure.
Because the Ministry of Environment or National Observatory on Climate Change is actually under the umbrella of the Ministry of Environment. So we can't really say they are not doing anything. The director, the Director General of the National Observatory has been on the field in Yagua since Tuesday. I think he might be back by this weekend. The Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment, Professor Chia Paul, has been there. So the Ministry of Environment has been effectively on the field. And then there is a situation which we could prevent, because I prefer we act preventive. Is probable, he is an epidemiologist, especially in that it is possible for us to register a situation of a cholera epidemic in that area, which is so that is a situation that can be prevented. And then focus with the health specialists are there. I also think it's good focus should be treated, especially towards the girl child, as Madam said. Their menstrual hygiene, especially, you know their level of scholarization, their living standard. So, and people might be tempted to focus more on Yagua. The situation is more challenging in the outskirts, down south of Yagua, in Mulvudai, in Gere, north of Yagua, in Kaikai. It is relatively more difficult for them. So, in the days ahead, in this area, though rainfall will relatively drop in terms of quantities, but given that the soils are already saturated, the river channels are already filled, very little amount can still lead to flooding. So flood risk still remain very eminent in the Mayo Danai, in the Logon and Shari, parts of Mayo Sava, even Mayo Tanaga, and a little section of the Diamare. When you come down to the north, the Benue division itself has a high propensity to register flood within the next 10 days. The Mayo Re division, in areas like Reboba, Choleri, Tuboro, it's still very possible for them to register floods in this area. When you come down to the littoral, all the 5 council areas floods are prominent, care should be taken to areas like Lopon, majority of the areas in Bonabéri, like Mabanda, Denver, southern part of Bonamusadi, and Dogbasi area, and all those flood-prone areas. In an area like Logbesu, it is very eminent to witness landslides. Yes. So people, then you go to the southwest, TEKUH, Limbe, should be on alert. People should, yes. Boya registered flash floods on the 11th. And when you go to bulletin number 119, you will notice Boya was the first locality on the southwest.
Thank you.
You go to the northwest, the same for Babisi, Bambalang in Gokitunja, Bui, and the lower part of Noni, Kumbu, Oku, Nkor, and Bamti area. When you come to the west, Sancho, Bafusam itself, the regional capital, and Kekem in the Opankam. At the level of landslide, you know, at this time of the year, the soils have already absorbed. It's like a sponge that has contained water up to the point that it can't enter again. So it is very easy for ground to get lows and flow down in very steep area. We are making reference to Boy, part of Mezam, part of Libialem, part of Menua, and a series of them.
Thank you so much. We salute your ability to master the different areas of the country. Yes, when he says what he says, what should be the role of local authorities to make sure that this doesn't happen?
Okay, before talking about local authorities, I will say he brought up some aspect which should not be neglected and gave us already a projection of areas which could be victims of such natural disasters. It's for us to embrace a multi-stakeholders approach, given what Dr. said. We want to see the ministries concerned leading the effort and moving along with all the other stakeholders for us to have a well-coordinated action on ground. This will help a lot to reduce the impact of the disasters. What should local actors do? What else than carry out community-driven initiatives that aim to preempt such disasters? Why can't we, for once, put in place in these areas which he has so well named? Why can't we have risk or disaster management, catastrophe management committees put in place? These ones, we should have this in all these towns which he has just named, and making sure that everybody is highly involved, because we know how it works. We create committees, we bring everybody, but we know the people who are working, who, when the time comes, for reasons best known to people. Now, I would say, briefly, to end it is that there is need for long-term resilience program. There is need to strengthen our environmental protection policies so as to prevent deforestation and promote the use of land use, promote the effective use of land as per the examples which they quoted here today. And of course, again, I want to finish by saying that let the government lead in these efforts, but lead in a coordinated way with all the other key stakeholders.
Mr. Awa, you have 25 seconds. The last word, please.
Thank you. First of all, on behalf of my family, I want to extend my sympathy to the 40,000 plus people affected in the north, in Yagua. Also to say that it's, first of all, an individual responsibility to be conscious of your safety and your security. If you have received information that your environment is prone to floods or disaster, it is up to you to take action. Take action by either getting more information on that or by moving. If you have been told, move, you move.
Thank you.
It's important.
Just 10 seconds, please.
Yes, the people of Yagua will continue to have them at heart and give more courage to them. And we would like to, the message to understand that, those stakeholders should understand that preparedness is not just a plan. It's a commitment to safeguard lives, and it's a way to actually turn fear into action.
Thank you, gentlemen and lady, for coming. I think our viewers today have been able to grab one or two things from our discussions here. It is here we are drawing the curtains of the program. If you did miss out on anything, rebroadcast is on Wednesday at 11 p.m. Until we meet again next Saturday. Bye-bye.